So now we're moving on to White Acropolis, which is easily one of the worst levels in the game. I don't really see the point of having the characters like show up in the hub world if you can't talk to them or anything. Like, it still feels pretty lifeless. Like, a lot of people complained that Soliana feels lifeless, but at least it had people living in it in 06. Here the characters are just standing around like it's Generations. But it was more justifying Generations, because in Generations you were... Well, we're playing Generations now, but in the actual game you were just... Like, they were all trapped in this white world. There wasn't really anything they could do. So, what else could they do besides, like, standing around? I have no idea how to get here. I always get lost trying to get over here. But yeah, the problem with this level, right from the start, is that the snowboarding section is really awkwardly designed. Like, at first you think it'll be really fun because you have the boost now, so you can actually go fast. But then you get to this part, where it curves upwards into a bottomless pit. So if you're moving too fast, you're guaranteed to die. So you should probably jump a whole bunch to slow yourself down, and then you're guaranteed to not fall off. Like, it's ironic, when I replayed this level, I only died to this section once. Even though I died a huge amount of times here. Like, most of my deaths were actually in Act 2 for some reason. But yeah, this section would be really awkwardly designed, even with good controls, and this is the perfect example of why. There's too much stuff in your way, like trees everywhere blocking the camera. It feels very cramped and claustrophobic. There's walls that get in your way. There's enemies that can attack you while you're vulnerable on a snowboard. It's good that there's checkpoints, but like it's just kind of awkward to play. It's better than in 06 though, where if you turned around too much, your controls would lock up in place, and you'd be spinning the game. You would be spinning the analog stick multiple times just to try to get back to where you want to go. But Sonic would just be locked up in place, and you wouldn't really be able to move around. And not to mention, the snowboard did not operate under any kind of momentum at all. You only move forwards when you held forwards, which is really awkward on a 3D snowboard. It is better here, but not by much. Act 2 is pretty cool, has a pretty cool atmosphere in the sense that the music is basically like badass secret bass music. I think it takes too long to get to the cool part. Like, there's too much build-up at the beginning, so it has that problem. One of the reasons I died a lot here was that the ring physics are pretty awful. Like, it's so difficult trying to pick up your rings, and there's so many enemies in this level. There's so many instances where you'll be forced to fight a bunch of enemies. And when you're surrounded by enemies, especially ones that shoot rockets at you, it's very easy to get hit without rings. This is extremely awkwardly designed because you're guaranteed to get hit by the spike balls. Like, there's one point where a dash pad literally sends you into them. And why do you have to have so many laser gates that need to be brought down by switches? Like, Tails only tells you that there should be a switch somewhere when you're, like, right next to the switch. Now, for most of Act 2, the switches are in pretty intuitive locations because they're all behind breakable ice. Like, breakable ice in the floor or the walls. But later in the level, when it gets a lot more wide open, there's no sense of direction at all, and you have no idea what you're supposed to do, because it's not really clear where the switches are anymore. There's barely any breakable ice, and when you do break ice, you just progress through the level. Like, the only indication that you're going the right way is a checkpoint, like on a hill. And I wasn't even able to beat this level when I replayed it today because of the whole, well, my controller stopped working, but there's also the whole, I just wasn't having fun anymore, the no direction part of it. Like, wide open levels with no direction to them don't really suit Sonic. You need to have some indication of where you're going. This is why linear levels are not necessarily a bad thing. Like, have clear shortcuts, but have it still be obvious where you need to go, what you need to do. Like, see that cage? Why is there a cage there? Why are you being forced to fight enemies? And hit switches. Hitting switches is not Sonic. And I'm not blaming the mod for this, I'm blaming the 06, because 06 had levels like this. Almost all of the previously showcased beta animations of Sonic in 06 from the off-screen footage of TGS 2005 and E3 2006 were left in the final release. But the only way they can be used is through editing the game's files. The beta homing attack animations are available with the use of the White Gem. Even the manual for 06 states features and items that were not in the final game. Like, 2 options for tag mode. Tag story, where you begin a new game or continue from a save file, and tag trial, where you play levels you already beat. The manual also mentions shields, upgrading custom actions to level 3 with chaos drives and the energy balls that fly out of enemies, and a gem gauge that actually limits your flying and hovering, none of which was in the final game. You could fly, but there was no flight meter making it obvious when Tails would get tired, and there was no flight meter for Omega, so the cool thing was you could just hover infinitely with him. And the shields, unfortunately, weren't in the game at all, which is a pretty glaring omission. The dialogue of the last story's Embers of Solaris cutscene differs between the English-Japanese version. In the English version, Elise asks if Sonic had destroyed Solaris, to which he replies that he did not, and the light approaching them is the true Solaris. But in the Japanese version, Elise asks if it's over, and Sonic says no and comments that the light is Solaris' spark. So I guess rather than being the true Solaris, it was his spark of life, or his spark of energy. Some screenshots in 06's official guide has Sonic's icon for the life count of every character besides Sonic himself. The silver medal placements in the guide are often inaccurate to the final game, probably based off beta footage. The guide mentions an unused speed chip upgrade for Silver that really should have been in the final game, because he's way too slow in the actual game. It also mentions several level up items and gems in the guide that have inaccurate details. The Mach speed would have damaged enemies in their way like a boost. The Mach speed is in the blue gem. So it's basically a prototype to the boost, except in the final game it sucked because you got damaged when you boosted into enemies. Not to mention the level wasn't really designed for it, so you just boost into walls a little bunch. And at Generations, in the 06 project, it was at least a lot better because the boosts actually damaged enemies. Plus we had the drift. The dummy rune, according to that guide, the dummy ring bomb would throw an empty item box, which you can't sort of tell, but the empty item box would would create rings that you wouldn't be able to pick up. So if you just got attacked, you wouldn't be able to see what rings were faked and what rings were real. I think he should have just thrown actual bombs like in Tails' Adventure. I don't know why they brought that dumb idea from Sonic Heroes back. Like, how would Tails even be able to control rings to the point of using them as a weapon anyways? Like aren't rings supposed to be like magical parts of Sonic's environment? Like chaos energy, magic? How would you be able to even pick them up and hold them? And the teleport dash in the guide apparently could have warped through enemies and their attacks. But it couldn't in the final game, so it was pretty useless. Like Silver just moved ahead a really tiny amount. But yeah, this part of the level I fell into this pit multiple times before my controller stopped working, and when I got its connection back, it refused to work, so I decided to just rage quit. But that's not the only reason that I rage quit this part of the level. There's just no indication of where you're supposed to go. Like, I think it's really cool that you can destroy spotlights just by boosting into them. Because in 06 you had to homie attack up them, and homie attack into the spotlight itself. It really makes you feel powerful just boosting through the spotlights and destroying them that way. But look, the level has gone on for over 9 minutes in a row. And that was a C! 9 minutes is the average rank. Really shows that there's a problem when you're expected to take 9 minutes in a Sonic game. And Kingdom Valley in 06 takes over 20 minutes when you first play it. No platforming level should take 20 minutes.
You better not move.
This is very boring considering what Eggman's about to do. Like, shouldn't all the characters be freaking out? Like, not right now, but after Sonic places the Chaos Emerald. Like, the characters are just standing around while Eggman gloats. Like, in the 06 parody, like Sonic 06 in minutes, you saw the characters panicking a whole bunch, and it was a lot more action-packed and exciting to watch, but here they just stand around. Like, Tails looks like an idiot. Like, they all look like idiots. They're just spinning around. And look, Eggman he has no life in his voice at all. He's just so toned down here. And it makes him boring. Is it ever really explained what Elise... Is it ever really explained what he's going to do to Elise to get Iblis out of her? Not really.
With this machine, I'll be able to control the flow of time itself.
It's most definitely a trap.
You can barely even tell that there's a plane of...
They're not dead.
You can barely even tell there's a pane of glass there. Like, it looks like she's a mime. Is it pane or plane?
Teleported by my glorious invention to another time.
Did you know that Eggman actually explains this plan to Elise twice? In 06, like, he explains it, like, after Elise gets herself kidnapped to protect her city, he explains the exact same plan again. He doesn't even really tell you anything new.
I can finally complete my plans. Now that
and again, they never explain how he expects to get the power out of Elise in the first place. Like, he can't force her to create her fire shield.
To revive the flames of disaster.
Like, it's kind of a subversion, Eggman's plan, because most of the time, in 3D Sonic, at least up to this point, he's been trying to control god monsters like Chaos. So he's trying to do that here, but he never actually manages to get it on his side. Like, Iblis never actually works for him. Mephiles, he doesn't even meet Mephiles. It's like, he doesn't really, he tries to, it's like, the story's all about him trying to get up to the point he was at in SA1 when he had Chaos, except he never actually gets there. Like, about Chaos, Iblis is basically not that different from Chaos. Like, they're both monsters that destroy a bunch of areas. Like, they both have green eyes and they both destroy a city. Like, Chaos floods Station Square, and Iblis basically destroys Crisis City, which I'm pretty sure wasn't called that before it got destroyed. That's how terrible Rouge's voice actor was. I wasn't joking when she said she sounded like a chain-smoking hooker in her 50s. It really doesn't suit her. Like, she's supposed to have charm, you know? She's supposed to be a teasing big sister. She's supposed to be, like, playful and feminine and stuff.
Eggman's got some nerve
but
dropping us here.
Instead of her quirky self, this voice is just trying to make her seductive, which is bad for obvious reasons. And again, I don't really like how her eyes are always half closed. I hated it with her model in SA2 when you played as her, and that's always the problem.
But that alone
you know, it doesn't make her look sympathetic at all.
Okay, Shadow. It looks like we need to work together.
Basically, Shadow figured out that they can travel through time with the Chaos Control, because they both use chaos control at the same time. Now, a common plot hole that people spot is, why doesn't Shadow just travel back in time to save Maria? Well, a lot of people forget that Maria has mids. She basically had no immune system whatsoever, so even if he did travel back in time to save her, it wouldn't really mean anything because she would just die like seconds after coming to Earth, because she wouldn't have any immune system. It wouldn't be a very good idea. Like, I guess a solution to that would be just getting Tails to build a disease-resistant mecha, like Buns Rabot had in the Archie comics. But I think that would take a bit of time, and yeah, this hub world really sucks. The thing is, this project actually adds a flaw that 06 didn't have. 06 did not force you to go through a 3D hub world to get to Crisis City and Flame Core. But here, there's no checkpoints, so having a bunch of bottomless pits you can fall into to constantly be respawned at the very beginning of it is not very good design. It's such a pain in the ass going around here.